Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Power Half Hour Unstoppable Business Owner. And I'm your host, Dorothy Odell, for this evening. We'd love to give a shout out to our first sponsor of today's show. For all your essential oil needs, get a hold of Bonnie Herb at 810-414-0929 or www.beoilywithbonnie.com. Because did you know that doTERRA essential oils can help support the body physically, mentally, and emotionally to help you achieve optimal health? Aromatherapy is a very powerful tool. And for more information, like I said, connect with Bonnie at www.beoilywithbonnie.com today. With that, we have the distinct pleasure of bringing Philip to the screen. Welcome to the show, Philip.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, so for those of our people that are just tuning in and have no idea who Philip is, please let us know what it is that you do.
All right, my name is Philip Ayles. I am the founder and CEO of Ayles Solutions. I designed it to help out veterans, first responders, and law enforcement to find a happier life. And what I use is a coaching method of self awareness that creates a foundation for you to build upon to where you understand yourself first. Because what I found out being in that field and doing emergency management and civil affairs and facilitating in other countries, that I was a people pleaser and at my own detriment. And what I found out, people will take advantage of you unless you stand up, and they prey on ignorance. So the more
Friend,
you educate yourself, the better.
I totally get you because we were talking before we went live in the back in the green room, and after decades of people pleasing and after a decade of healing, and figuring, hey, I think I got that licked. Come to find out that no, there's still just a little bit more healing to do there with that people pleasing. Is I think it's one of the biggest things, especially people like myself who are empathetic and really, care about people, and we just allow people. And when I say that, it's like we are allowing it. and I can see that clearly now. But sometimes it's like our drug of choice, right? Some people like cocaine. We like helping people, and we like, uh, you know, making sure everybody else is happy at the
Yeah.
expense of ourselves. So I totally get you, friend. Totally get you. that is that's some powerful stuff.
Well, you know what? I've been fortunate enough in my life to where I have taken advantage of opportunities as have arisen. And I've been able to live history rather than just read about it in a book. And I am grateful for those experiences, both good and bad, because what it did, it helped me shape my understanding of how I fit in. And I think that a lot of veterans, first responders, and law enforcement lose that because you get into in a niche that you know how to respond to and recover from any disaster that happens in front of you or you get called to. So what I realized that part of my own awakening and of myself and realizing that, you know what, I had to take responsibility for me and only me. I can't tell you why others did what they did, but I can tell you why I did mine. And I come to find out that if you fight every single battle, people get worn out.
Yep.
If you really look at it, it makes people not want to interact with you because they don't know what they're going to get. Are you for me or against me today?
Right. 100%, 100%. And Phil, thank you so much for your service too, by the way.
Thank you.
I wanted to mention that at the beginning and kind of it slipped with what we were talking about. So what would you say are three things that you've had to overcome to get to where you're at in business today?
To get where I'm at now, I had to ask for help. that was probably the hardest thing that I had to do because it was so ingrained in me that
Mhm.
only the weak ask for help. You got this. You can do this. Well, throughout my experiences, I've been able to do nothing on my own. I've had to rely on other people, and that's part of creating teams that flourish rather than ones that are constantly bickering and get nothing done.
Mhm.
Uh, I was pretty much forced into it because of stigma in my own head that I had to be the breadwinner. I had to do all this, and I was trying to go to school, work full time, go to school full time, and deal with the military and going overseas. And I was in hyperdrive my whole uh, youth
Mhm.
because I didn't know anything, and everything excited me. So I was like, man, why not? And things that people were like, oh, I don't want to do that. You know what? You never know when you need the skill. So I have so many certificates and training because they offered it. And I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Right. And good for you for taking advantage of that because seriously, a lot of people don't take advantage of free education, right? And it blows my mind. And then they're all sitting there complaining about how their life sucks, but they won't take advantage of it.
What accountability are you doing for yourself and positioning yourself to achieve what your dreams are? Because if you don't live your dreams, you're living somebody else to profit from making their dreams happen.
Absolutely. Funny you said that. That is right out of a line in my book.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Right out of a
Well,
line
that
in my
tells
book.
you you're on the right track.
Apparently, yes, yes. It's funny. I had a VP I asked me how's it going, and my standard answer is living the dream. And he said yours or somebody else's, and I was just like, oh. So then I wrote a book about it.
Yeah. Well, those profound things that make you go, huh, really? Ah, it was me.
Right, right. and it's funny because after I wrote it and it was out, it's funny, it took me almost a year after the book was out to finally tell people at work that I wrote the book. And because I don't know, I had this conception in my head that
Rejection.
if people know, not necessarily rejection, but so part HR had this thing that if, we couldn't work or do anything else outside of what we were doing
Yeah.
to some degree anyways. And so I didn't want to be caught, I guess. But I mean,
Freelance.
it was completely after hours anyways that I had wrote it and things like that. And I'm like, you know what, if I can't talk to the people that I spend 8 9 hours a day with, then who can I talk with, right? And so that's I was like, finally, and then I told him about the golf tournament that we got going, and I'm being more vocal. And I'm like, man, there's like 1,100 people that work at this place in all facilities. Why not open my mouth?
Well, I took contracts in DC working with emergency management and everything. Nobody talks in the federal government unless you're at the higher levels, and all they do is argue. Uh,
Right.
the people that are actually doing the work are the contractors,
Hmm.
and blows my mind on the mindset there because I'm about getting things done. And part of getting things done is to communicate. I want everybody's opinion. And why can't I talk to you and you're in the next cubicle?
Right.
Well, because what it is, they find out that nobody at the top knows what the heck they're doing.
Right.
So nobody talks. So no one shares information. No one does anything but politics.
And communication is key in everything,
Yeah.
and that is in every relationship that we have, whether that be at home, whether that be at work, whether that be in business. And a lot of us are still tripped up with that because we don't want to hurt the other person, but in the same sense, by not speaking our truths, we're actually hurting them and ourselves.
Yes, actually, you're
really.
wasting time, and time is all you have.
Hmm.
Because you got to look at, can are we going to sit here and hold a grudge for 30 years and not get anything accomplished for 30 years, or are we going to sit down going, hey, and clearly communicate it to where, you know what, let's go have a beer?
Right.
Because the rest, you got to look at what's your priorities are. And that's what I found out you get with self-awareness,
Yeah.
because in that you actually got to be honest with yourself, and you got to be ready to be brutally honest,
Right.
because only you can make that change. Nobody else on this planet can force you to change
So,
unless you
right.
make that conscious effort.
So, what made you decide to go from being a veteran, like in military, to a coach?
Well, I traveled for a couple years in a Class A RV because I always talked about it. In 2015, I got the opportunity because I had lost my house, lost my cars, everything that I thought was important. Because when I got back from Iraq as a contractor, I couldn't get hired
Wow.
because I was making six figures over there. And everybody's looking, well, you'll get bored here. Well, I've seen the reality behind things. When you peek behind that curtain and you realize you SOBs,
Mhm.
that it's all some, you got to look, everything that we have, somebody thought of
Yeah.
or somebody died from. That's how we know. And that's what we've done throughout history. Now we have the opportunity to take our humanity to a whole nother level because we have the time now. It's not survival anymore.
Right.
And for us sharing that, and I didn't want to sit on my couch and get fat and be an alcoholic. So
Well,
I
good for
looked at
you.
it. Yeah, well, yeah.
I mean, like seriously, no, and I don't mean that in a smart
Yeah.
ass way, but seriously, because a lot of people could just say that, say, you know what, I did my time, and now I'm just gonna be retired for the rest of my life. But good for you for saying no. Like, how can I help the next person, right? And
Well,
so,
and that's where I looked at it because I found out everybody that I interviewed with and everything, oh, you're way overqualified. Okay, well, then you're going to see me as a peer because now I'm going to start my own company and I have control over the way it goes versus somebody else because it's their dream, not mine. And I found that out through doing volunteer work with veteran organizations.
mhm.
And I try to and a lot of veterans get into these organizations thinking, I'm going to change the world. Hold on. It's not your organization.
Yes.
It's their organization. You're just part of it. If you don't want to fulfill what their mission is, then go somewhere else. Is
Mhm.
the philosophy behind it. But it gives purpose, direction, and motivation for people that have that time and miss that camaraderie, the chaos, the being important, because it's a drug.
Mhm.
When you've been doing it for 20, 30 years, you look at it, go, wow, I'm comfortable in the combat zone. Come back here, no one cares. No one cares. Everybody treats you like you've never done anything in your life. No one asks.
Wow.
And
That's
we
profound.
we bottle it up inside. And that's why it's easier to drink and feel buzz every day than to deal with the reality of it was in the past.
So my challenge out there to all of
Yes.
our civilians is seriously grab somebody that you know that's either in active duty or a veteran and just ask them how they're doing. That is my challenge to everybody. Ask them how they're doing. And, sometimes just opening up a conversation is you wouldn't believe the amount of stuff that I've learned by talking to our veteran community. So, I mean, seriously, they are amazing people. Um, as a matter of fact, I actually can relate better to my veterans than I can my civilians. And I have never served. I do have family members that have served, but I'm just like, man, I can so relate to you guys. And seriously, my challenge is to just do that. Exactly what you just said. Exactly what you just said there, Philip, because I think that is so important. So important. Now, before we get into the next segment, I just want to take a quick break here. I want to go
Okay.
back to our next sponsor here. So, ladies and gentlemen, are you feeling stuck in your career or business? And are you ready to unlock your full potential and accomplish your goals with compounding growth so that you can live your life like it's a walk on the beach? Then listen up, because I have some exciting news for you. Today's live cast is sponsored by the Left Foot Coach, an innovative entrepreneurial venture partner that will take your income and self expression to the next level. With his established five pillar methodology, the Left Foot Coach can help you build a solid foundation for success and expand your full potential. As a venture growth coach, the Left Foot Coach is dedicated to partnering with you and your established business to help you grow your income and achieve your goals. Whether you're an entrepreneur or a professional looking to take your career to the next level, the Left Foot Coach can provide you with the guidance and support and resources you need to succeed. So if you're ready to unlock your full potential and achieve your dreams, then schedule a free 30-minute call today at calendly.com /XIN left /30-minute month equals 2023 6. And trust me, as a client who's experienced his growth interventions already, you won't regret it. All right. Thank you for that. All right. So, Philip, I got to ask you, what
Yes.
things do you do to help your clients overcome?
I help clients overcome themselves and realize that uh, there's balance that they have to do within inside themselves. And just like what they tell you on airplanes and our disaster situation, you got to put your mask on first before you can help anybody else. And the analogy that I use is your cup. Is your cup empty? Well, what do you have to give to anybody? Your cup's empty. You need help. But if my cup is full because I took steps along the way throughout my life to fight for the benefits and everything that I currently have. Because there's nobody going to give you money just to give you money. Well, no, you have to prove it. You have things that are set up same way with professional athletes. That's why they get paid the way they do, because they could lose their career the next day. Well, you got to look at it. If we're willing to pay that for athletes, why aren't we doing this? That same type of mentality for our service men and women,
Mm-hmm.
and those that are public service, that are in law enforcement, first responders, because basically we do the same things. It's just we do ours overseas in the worst inhospitable places, and they do it here back in the United States. I want to be able to exploit your talents and allow you to exploit it and see your full potential and your full value. It's taking that diamond that's rough and polishing it.
Mm-hmm.
And once we got your diamond good to go, you can help somebody else. And imagine it's paying it forward and letting other people know that, hey, you're not alone. There's
Mm-hmm.
no reason to isolate. There's no reason to have suicidal thoughts. There's help out there for everybody. And there's 50,000 organizations in the United States that say they help veterans and law enforcement and first responders. Why don't we put them to the test? And if you don't take advantage of the services, guess what? It disappears because no one's using it. And the biggest thing is I get them to get rid of their ego and their pride,
Right.
because those are two filters that we place on ourselves and we can't see the clear picture. But you flip those off, man, it comes, and then you only have the filters of your upbringing, your experiences, your life up to that point. Well, if you open up your mind and realize that we're more alike than different. I
Mhm.
don't care where you're from. If we're all living in the same geographic location, what does it matter where you came from? We're here, and that's the reality behind it. And we have to find a way to make it the best environment for the next generation.
I love that. Best environment for a next generation. I absolutely love that. Um, and it's funny since the pandemic hit, and I was at home with my
Mhm.
stepson for a little while. And having to work from home, making sure that he's at the kitchen table doing his work, because, and then him coming in all the time, interrupting me constantly. And I still got to get my work done, right? Like my boss, gracious enough to let me work from home, but like it's got to get done. And it's funny when you said you know how to go into combat, but you didn't know how to return to civilian life. So my combat was it's being at home with my stepson.
Mhm.
And I literally, my entire life has been dealing with parents that are chronically ill. I can deal with illness. I can deal with any disease known to man. I can deal with somebody being in a hospital. I can deal with death. What I couldn't deal with was staying at home with him and having to go like the back and forth. I almost lost my freaking mind. I literally. So my battlefield of
Well,
choice,
I'm glad you didn't. You found it.
I found it. On top of that,
It was
my
in the
dad was
corner.
going through. On top of that, my dad was going through cancer treatments and all of this stuff, and it was just like I called him up one day. I'm like, "How did you raise us? I have no clue how you did this." And he goes, "I'm going to tell you one thing. Now, get it in mind. My dad is like a drill sergeant.
Yeah.
He was in the cadets. He was never in active duty, but he we were like our house was like a drill sergeant house. You did what you were told. Kids are to be seen and not heard. You if the answer is no the first time, you don't dare ask it a second time. And I said to him, "How do you deal with this?" And he goes, "It's a different world, babe. You just don't sweat the small stuff." But I'm like, really? Because that's not how you raised us.
Well, no, but that's what he turned into.
Yeah.
He morphed into it because you find out we're outnumbered. We're outnumbered. There's a lot more people that think normal, and it's about finding your own structure. And I think kids are more educated now than they've ever been, and they're picking up information so fast, and they're processing it, and they're keep in the video games and hand and eye coordination, everything that is involved. These are skills.
Mhm.
We know we look at it because I look at it and go, I just did my job. Nah, but what got to do was the phenomenal part. I mean, I've walked down the hall of the Joint Chief Staff in the Pentagon.
Mhm.
I've sat in Saddam's chair. I've done all that,
Wow.
and I went back as a contractor, and so I got to see a whole nother world on top of everything that I've already experienced. That I loved it as a contractor because I didn't have to deal with the politics because the egos were off the charts, and everybody thought they had the solution and said, oh, they blew everybody off that had already been there and dealt with it for a year. They
Mhm.
go, oh well, they didn't know what they were doing. Well, after getting used by the Iraqi government for 6 months, they go, oh, okay, maybe they did know what they were doing, and then the cycle repeats over again with the next unit.
Wow. Man, and this is why, oh my gosh, like to be where you just said you were at in those places, like any other normal person or civilian, not normal, but civilian could never wrap their head around being in those places. Like we just myself, I'm thinking, like, what must that have felt like, you know, to be in Saddam's chair, like you said. Like, I was just like, wow, that, and you know, being at the Pentagon and things like that, it's just mind blowing. So, wow.
Well, the biggest thing is you never know what opportunity will come up. Say yes to those. And I mean, is getting into the environment. And that's where a lot of the other contractors and other military people that I've interacted with say they'd rather be over in a combat zone because you get to actually do what you're trained for. Back here in the United States, it's a dog and pony show. Nothing really gets done until you go overseas because the War Powers Act.
Mhm.
And people don't think of that.
Right.
And it's and I'm a macro thinker. This micro stuff is where I'm having to dig in. That's hard because it's hard to go from a satellite down to a speck of dirt on the ground.
Hmm. Interesting.
But
Wow.
no, and I love everything that I've done. You know, it helped me just figure out who I am and where I came or why I've lived through the things that I have. And you know what? Great thing about it is live through it all.
Hmm.
We're here to talk about it and
Yeah.
discuss it. So hopefully somebody else understands and they go, you know what? That's my next mission is make sure my family's squared away.
Hmm.
And it's because that's our legacy. And my greatest accomplishment, my daughters. And the universe put me with them at the most inopportune time for me, but it was optimal for them because they were just hitting their teens or in their teenage years and they needed me and I needed them as much as because I lost my humanity for Americans
Hmm.
and bringing that back. And now I realize that, you know, I'm my own you're your own worst enemy. Things are not happening because you're not taking steps and being present. You got to show up, not more than once, or just more than once. You got to be consistent in what you do,
Right.
and until you work on yourself, you're just putting out little fires here and there, and not dealing with the seed.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. Wow. So, Philip, who would you say would be your target market, like your target client, like right for the picking? Whom do you serve now?
Well, I look at veterans that are underemployed or not exactly where they want to be, or you know, if they're perfectly happy in their career choice, but it's now how's your communication with your family? Those are the things that you dive into with self awareness because it took emotional intelligence for me to figure that out. Because other than that, I had a filter on that wouldn't let me see it, and that's where we have to look at is we respect each other. And my or you know what, this is can be applicable to teachers, anybody in public service that is it really what you want to do or do you want to does it fulfill your soul to be able to do that and what are you going to do when that's no longer available, and that's what most people can't because they're stuck in gotta survive. Well, okay, now you're surviving.
Let's go to
Now,
thriving.
yes, now let's go to living and thriving.
Right.
And because you're taught in the military survival to accomplish the mission. Well, my mission is it changes now that I'm out because now I have to interact with the rest of the world. And how
Hmm.
do we communicate? Then let everybody know that I understand and give a little grace. and understanding and love. Love will bring us together because there's more we love than we hate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that. And, when you said, when you're in the military, you have a mission. So there's been a lot of talks of missions. And I don't know if anybody's seen the new Maverick movie, where they basically were put under Maverick's care and then given this mission impossible to do, right?
Yes.
Because they were supposed to, well, go through all that winding and stuff. I'm not going to ruin the movie if you've never
Spoiler.
seen it. The spoiler alert, right? Thank you. The way they had to navigate it, and they had to be precise in their seconds behind each other,
Yes.
and it was like Mission Impossible. And they all at one point thought, "There's no way in hell this is ever going to get done," but yet they proved them wrong. And so I just love that, because you give this old guy that should have been upped in rank by the time he was in the
His
age
mouth
that he
got
was
in
at.
trouble.
That's right, and still where he was when he got in, but that's what he wanted to do, right? Because he was helping people do the impossible,
Yeah.
and so help. It's love that that's what you're doing. You're helping our guys that have done the impossible, and now we're giving them their lives back, to a degree that they can walk into the civilian world and be like, okay, I knew what it was like to be in combat, but now it's a different kind of combat. Now it's everyday life, which is some days a combat in itself. But
Well, I learned that in civil affairs. That civil affairs is about how do we keep them sustained. And that's where we have to look at now. If where you live is not the best place to live, what are you doing to make it happen? Or anybody can gripe. I find solutions. And it's solutions that work for you. And that's all that matters, because it doesn't have to work for me. But you can say, I look back going, damn, I'm glad I did that.
yeah, absolutely. So, where is the best place that you want people to look for you, Philip?
Well, you can check me out on LinkedIn, Phil Ayles on LinkedIn, or you can Google Philip Ayles and it'll pop up. But you can also get a hold of my website at ailessolutions.com. And I'm open to, let's see what we can do. If I can help you or direct you in the right place to go for you, is the 15-minute talk worth it?
Come on, guys. 15 minutes of your time you've wasted more time doing something that you absolutely hated, and let's invest the time, the 15 minutes, into yourself. So really get a hold of Philip. Definitely either go to LinkedIn or definitely go to his website, ailessolutions.com for sure. Then that's www.aylessolutions.com. Thank you so much, Philip, for coming on.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the people that have been on, and for people that are going to watch this on the replay. And don't forget, I threw a challenge out there to our civilians, Veterans Matter challenge. So if you see a veteran, thank them for their service, number one, and just start a conversation. Basically, is what it boils down to, right? They matter. They put their lives on the line for you. 85% of them lost their marriage due to it because the divorce rate is so high. So my mission is to help not only them transition to civilian lives, but also to help their spouse so that they can save these marriages. That's what I am all about. And so let's just make sure that they know that they're welcomed after coming home from their tour of duties, and putting 25 to 30 years of their blood, sweat, and tears into our countries, and keeping them safe. So
I also teach you not to be an asshole. Because that's
can you
what
teach civilians that too?
civilians gripe about. Oh, he's an ass. No, he just deals with things in a different manner, and paying attention to that.
Well, sir, I have to say you were Just not veterans are an asshole. Civilians can be assholes too. So
Yes. So let's all get together and figure it out
that's
and
right.
have a solution to it.
That's right. We'll have a solution to that. I just wanted to give one last shout out to our last sponsor of today's show, which is the Don Gray Memorial Class Fun Classic. It's August 19th here in Tilbury, Ontario. If you are a golfer, if your life has been affected by cancer in any way, you know the pain that we go through. So this year, all proceeds are going to the Chatham Kent Peer Cancer Support Group in honor of my dad. So to get registered, go to registerdgm@gmail.com. Get registered today. That includes 18 holes, your golf, and a steak dinner at the end. There's prizes to be won, and we're going to have fun. You'll get to see me. Yeah. So it's going to be fun. And thank you so much, Philip, for, like I said, for coming on. Thank you so much for your service. And let's see if you accepted my challenge, guys. If you have accepted the Veterans Matter challenge, I would love to hear from you. Please, I would love to hear from you. If you have any testimonials of how that went, I will be collecting them, because I really want to do, who knows, maybe I'll have a lineup of another show, have a lineup of all my veterans, and then just sharing testimonies of people walking up to them and doing the Veterans Matter challenge.
There you go. Right.
And I just pulled that shit out of my head. What can I say?
All right.
All right. Thanks, guys. There we go. Be unstoppable in all that you do. And don't forget to check us out on our Roku channel, which is Unstoppable Overcomers, and also our YouTube channel. If you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, which is Unstoppable Overcomers, then subscribe now, please. And sharing is caring, so share with your network. And with that, bye for now and have an awesome week.